I speak to you in the name of the living God, blessed Trinity, and lover of your souls. Amen. I've been thinking about Holy Week as flipping through an old family photo album, the kind that's compiled before you were born, the one with the frayed leather cover that came from your parent or your grandparent and gets rediscovered each year on the dusty top shelf or the bottom cupboard. You know, the one with the musty smell and the sepia-toned stories that birthed your life. Without the help of these memories from someone else, images with handwritten dates and names scribbled on the back sides, we might forget what job your godmother had the day you were born, where mom was standing when grandpa died, what Aunt Sandra used to laugh at in Uncle Ray's jokes, and how Cousin Jennifer loved to play on the front lawn with her puppy. Though you've flipped through the pages a dozen times, this year might be the first time you notice that mom was doing the splits when she caught that first base pop-up, or that dad loved to cut the grass without shoes on. I wonder what you have noticed this Holy Week as you've been flipping through the photo book of the church's past and that last week before Jesus' death. Those stories you've heard over and over again, but maybe you're seeing from a different angle or perspective this year. What questions are you asking of Jesus in the garden? This week, the Church Universal has been flipping back and forth between these stories. We've already been to the cross twice. We sat once again at the table with Judas for Jesus' last meal and felt our minds drip with the water between our toes on Maundy Thursday. And now we find ourselves yet again in the garden where the Christ liked to pray. And while we're here, we might wonder, as we do in our own photo family albums, what color the Messiah's hair was in the torchlight when the police came to seize him. We might wonder about the sounds and the textures that aren't immediately apparent in the black and white descriptions of John's Gospel. What did it feel like when Judas kissed Jesus' furry cheek? Were his lips parched from an anxious night, or were they tender and sweet with sorrow? What was the tone of the Son of God's voice when he asked the chief priests and police who they were looking for, knowing full well it was him? And what did he mean when he asked them that question? Because when Jesus asked, "Who is it that you seek?" something strange happened. That's the text for today. A text that tells us that when the soldiers and police and Pharisees came looking for Jesus and he said, "I am he," everyone there fell to the ground. An invisible force sent them staggering. Have you ever been knocked over by an invisible force? Maybe an emotion. Have you ever sought someone who, when you found them, the reality of the experience knocked you off your feet? I've felt this way before when I've met people whom I'd soon find would become dear friends, or maybe more than that. I saw in a video online a similar situation of someone being knocked off their feet, though maybe not in as joyful of a way, but just as profound. There was a man who was so full of bigotry, and he took one of those ancestral genealogy DNA tests and fell to his knees when he learned that he was made of the same stuff as the one whom he hated. And it makes me think that sometimes in the search for our own way, our own truth, our own life, we come face to face with the way, the truth, and the life, and that ultimate reality sends us staggering to our knees. Maybe that's why Jesus asks those who come seeking him in the garden this question about whom they seek, not once but twice, just to check if they're really sure that who they want is Jesus. Because he's not someone who will make himself small. He opens his arms wide, even in the garden, and gives himself fully to those who seek him. And he still does that for us today. Who are you looking for this Good Friday? Have you come here on the pages of Holy Week in this album looking for Jesus? If so, you may not like where you find him. He's seized yet again in the garden, judged and found guilty in courtroom, mocked in city streets, hung on a torturous cross, stabbed in his side with a spear and placed in a tomb. Are you sure this is the God you seek? One who is familiar with suffering, wounded, crushed. The one whom the prophet Isaiah tells us carries our diseases. The one who was put to death. If this is the God you seek, to be with him on this Good Friday, you will have to join him on the cold ground, in the dirt and the rock of the dark tomb he now lays in. Will you endure the scraped knees and the cracked bones it will take to get yourself down low enough to lay your hands on him as he lays there, arms open and ready to receive you in the tomb of your own life? If you can endure it, it has been promised that his bruises will soon heal our own. But we'll have to wait through the dark night with him and the seemingly endless Holy Saturday that follows before we'll see even a crack of light. The gift of the church this Holy Week and every Holy Week is that we have been through this photo album before and we know the story that is coming. It is the story of the death and life that comes through Christ. A death that births life. A promise that if we will wait with Christ, we will emerge with him from our own tombs in a new world that has all along been waiting for us. We just didn't know it was going to be like this. There is a world coming that was all along being prepared for our rebirth as individual people, as a church, as a global community. And as a community of faith, we do not forget these stories, and we continue to cling to the promises made this week, the promises made by Jesus. For though he is now wrapped in the shrouds of death, our story tells us that no matter how bad things look today, he is the way, the truth, and the life that has already come into the world, is in the world even now, and will come again. Jesus is the one we are looking for.